The galaxy had known peace for 12,000 years. The conclave of elders, those ancient beings who had witnessed the birth and death of countless civilizations, maintained order through wisdom rather than force. They had seen the rise of the Cathari Empire, watched the Luminari spread their light across 100 systems, and guided the Vex Collective through their metamorphosis from predators to philosophers. In all their infinite experience, they had learned one immutable truth. Some species were meant to remain contained. The humans of Earth were one such species. Elder Vothnal stood before the assembled council, his translucent form shimmering with the accumulated light of 3 million years. Around him, the other elders floated in their crystalline chambers, each one a repository of knowledge spanning eons. The chamber itself existed outside normal space, a pocket dimension where time moved differently, allowing the Ancient Ones to deliberate without the constraints of mortal urgency. "The humans have discovered faster than light travel," Vothnal announced, his voice resonating through frequencies that would have shattered lesser minds. "They call it the Pierce Drive, named after one of their scientists, a woman named Catherine Pierce, working from a small laboratory in what they call New Mexico." A ripple of concern passed through the assembled elders. Elder Murithex, whose consciousness spanned 7 bodies simultaneously, spoke next. "This is precisely what we feared. The containment protocols must be enacted immediately. We have done this before with the Severan Horde, with the Mind Plague of Nexus 7. Humanity must be quarantined before they spread beyond their system." "I concur," said Elder Zephyrus, the oldest among them, whose memory extended back to the formation of the first stars. "I have observed this species for centuries. They are volatile, unpredictable. They wage war upon themselves with terrifying regularity. They poison their own world. They create weapons capable of ending their entire civilization, and then they build more. If we allow them to enter the galactic community, they will destabilize everything we have built." The decision was made within what humans would call a microsecond, though to the elders it represented decades of careful deliberation. Warnings would be sent to every spacefaring civilization in the galaxy. Humanity was to be avoided, contained, and under no circumstances engaged. The blockade would be absolute, but the elders, for all their wisdom, had never truly understood humans. Captain Daniel Torres stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, humanity's first interstellar vessel. He was 43 years old, with gray at his temples and lines around his eyes that spoke of too many sleepless nights. Behind him, his crew of 72 men and women worked at their stations, each one representing the finest minds Earth had to offer. "Pierce Drive is online," reported his chief engineer, a heavyset man named Christopher Blake. "We're ready to make history, Captain." Torres nodded, his jaw tight. 3 years of preparation had led to this moment, the first faster-than-light jump. Proxima Centauri awaited them just 4 light-years away. In the old days, it would have taken generations to reach. Now it would take 12 minutes. "All hands prepare for Pierce transition," Torres announced. "In 30 seconds, we leave the solar system behind." The countdown felt eternal. Then the universe twisted around them, reality folding like paper, and when it straightened again, they were somewhere else entirely. "Captain," said Lieutenant Amy Sullivan, her voice trembling. "You need to see this." Torres looked at the main view screen and felt his stomach drop. They had expected empty space, perhaps the distant light of Proxima Centauri's red dwarf sun. Instead, they found ships, hundreds of ships, thousands. A wall of alien vessels stretched across their entire field of view, each one bristling with weapons that made humanity's most advanced technology look like stone tools. "They're hailing us," Sullivan said. "Put it through." The voice that filled the bridge was melodic and terrible, translated through some technology they couldn't begin to understand. "Human vessel, you have violated the boundary established by the conclave of elders. You are hereby ordered to return to your system and never attempt interstellar travel again. This is not a negotiation. This is not a request. The elders have spoken. You will comply or you will be destroyed." Torres felt 72 pairs of eyes on him, his crew waiting for his response. His species, represented in this moment by one man on one ship, he squared his shoulders. "This is Captain Daniel Torres of the Earth vessel Horizon's Edge. We mean you no harm. We come in peace, seeking only to explore the stars that have called to us since we first looked up at the night sky. We ask for the chance to prove ourselves, to join the galactic community as equals." The response was immediate and cold. "The elders have determined that humanity is too dangerous to be allowed beyond their system. Your history speaks for itself. Your wars, your weapons, your capacity for destruction. Return now, human, this is your only warning." Torres looked at his crew. He saw fear in their eyes, but something else too: determination, pride, that uniquely human stubbornness that had taken them from caves to the stars. "We're going home," he said quietly. "But this isn't over." The Horizon's Edge turned and jumped back to Earth. In the galactic blockade, the alien commanders reported another successful containment. The humans had been warned. Surely they would listen. They did not listen. The years that followed changed humanity forever. The discovery that they were not alone, that there were thousands of civilizations among the stars, that ancient beings had looked upon them and found them wanting, it could have broken them. Instead, it united them. For the first time in human history, the nations of Earth truly came together, not in loose alliances or temporary treaties, but in genuine union. The United Earth Government was formed within 18 months of first contact, with its capital in Geneva and representatives from every nation on the planet. Old grudges were set aside. Old wars were forgotten. Humanity had a new enemy now, not each other, but the galaxy itself. Catherine Pierce, the inventor of the Pierce drive, was given unlimited resources and the brightest minds on Earth. Her mandate was simple: make humanity unstoppable. "The blockade ships use some form of quantum shielding," she explained to the newly formed Earth Defense Council. "Our scans during the encounter gave us enough data to begin reverse engineering the technology. More importantly, we identified weaknesses." Admiral Samuel Grant, a grizzled veteran who had once commanded nuclear submarines, leaned forward. "Weaknesses we can exploit. With time, yes. Their shields are powerful, but they're designed to stop energy weapons. Kinetic projectiles moving fast enough can punch through. We need to develop railguns capable of firing at relativistic speeds. We need to miniaturize the Pierce drive so it can be used for tactical jumps. We need to build a fleet." "How long?" Grant asked. Pierce looked at her calculations, at the impossible task before her. "Give me 10 years. They gave her 8. In those 8 years, humanity transformed itself. Factories that once built cars now built warships. Universities that once competed for prestige now collaborated freely, sharing every breakthrough instantly. The global economy was restructured around a single purpose: survival. The first Earth Defense Fleet launched in 2089. 50 ships, each one a masterpiece of human engineering. They were smaller than the alien vessels, but faster and more maneuverable. Their weapons were primitive by galactic standards, but they were designed with a brutal efficiency that the comfortable civilizations of the Conclave had long forgotten. Admiral Grant stood on the bridge of the flagship, the Liberty's Dawn, and addressed the fleet. "For 8 years, we've been told to stay in our corner. We've been told we're too dangerous, too violent, too primitive to join the rest of the galaxy. Well, I've got news for them. They were right. We are dangerous, we are violent, and God help anyone who tries to keep us caged." The fleet jumped to Proxima Centauri. The blockade was still there, though it had been reduced over the years. The Conclave had grown complacent. No species had ever challenged their decree. The humans would surely be no different. They were different. The battle lasted 6 hours. Human ships, darting like wasps around the massive alien cruisers, unleashed their railgun salvos. The relativistic rounds tore through quantum shields like they weren't there. Alien commanders, who had never faced true aggression in millennia, found themselves outmaneuvered by captains who had grown up studying the battles of Midway and Gettysburg and Stalingrad. When it was over, 23 human ships remained. The entire Proxima blockade had been annihilated. News of the defeat reached the Conclave within hours. For the first time in 12,000 years, the elders knew fear. "This is impossible," Elder Murathex declared. "A species barely out of their industrial age cannot defeat our combined forces." "And yet they have," Vothnal replied. We underestimated them. We assumed that because they were primitive, they were weak, but their primitiveness was their strength. They have spent their entire existence fighting, against nature, against each other, against every obstacle the universe has placed before them. They do not know how to surrender. Then we must make them learn, said Elder Zephyrus. Summon the full might of the conclave, every ship, every weapon. We will crush this rebellion before it spreads. The call went out across the galaxy. The conclave armada, the largest fleet ever assembled, began to gather. 10,000 ships from 100 civilizations, each one answering the Elder's summons. Humanity would face the combined might of the entire galaxy, but humanity was not idle. In the 3 years since the Battle of Proxima, Earth had been transformed into a fortress. Every continent housed shipyards. Every ocean floor was mined for resources. The population, now fully mobilized for war, worked in shifts around the clock. The fleet grew from 50 ships to 500, then to 5,000. More importantly, humanity had learned. They had captured alien technology at Proxima and spent every moment since studying it. Their ships now carried hybrid weapons that combined human brutality with alien efficiency. Their shields, reverse-engineered and improved, could withstand punishment that would have vaporized the horizon's edge. And then there was Project Genesis. Catherine Pierce, now director of Earth's Advanced Research Division, had stumbled upon something in the captured alien databases, something the Conclave had forbidden. A technology so dangerous that the Elders had wiped it from existence millions of years ago. It's called a stellar converter, she explained to the Defense Council. In its original form, it was designed to harvest energy from stars, but with modifications it can do something else, something terrible. What kind of modifications? Admiral Grant asked. Pierce pulled up a holographic display. It can detonate stars, any star, on command. The room fell silent. If we build this, said President Margaret Cole, her voice barely above a whisper, we become exactly what they feared, destroyers, monsters. If we don't build this, Grant replied, we die, all of us, every man, woman, and child on Earth. The Conclave Armada is coming, Madam President, 10,000 ships. We can fight them, maybe even beat them, but at what cost? How many of our people will die in a conventional war? Pierce spoke up. There's another option. We build the converter, but we don't use it. We let them know we have it. Deterrence. Mutually assured destruction, Cole said. We invented that concept. Yes, Pierce nodded, and it kept us from destroying ourselves for over a century. Maybe it can keep the galaxy from destroying us. The vote was unanimous. Project Genesis would proceed. The Conclave Armada arrived at the edge of the solar system 6 months later. 10,000 ships, arranged in perfect formation, each one representing the pinnacle of their civilization's technology. At their center flew the Arbiter, the Elder's own vessel, a moon-sized construct that had not moved from its position in the galactic core in over 100,000 years. Elder Zephyrus himself led the fleet. He had witnessed the extinction of 12 species and the subjugation of countless others. This, he believed, would be no different. Human vessels, he broadcast, you face the full might of the Conclave. Surrender now and we will be merciful. We will relocate your species to a reserve world where you can live out your days in peace. Resist and you will be exterminated. This is not a threat, this is a certainty. The response came from Admiral Grant, now Fleet Admiral of the United Earth Navy. His face, weathered and determined, appeared on every screen in the Armada. Elder Zephyrus, I'm going to give you one chance. 1. Turn your fleet around and go home. Not because we can't beat you, we can, but because what comes next if you refuse will change everything for everyone. Zephyrus actually laughed, a sound that echoed through dimensions. You threaten the Conclave, you whose species was still living in caves when I was ancient, prepare to die human. Remember, Grant said quietly, I tried. He gave the order. Deep within Earth's core, where the stellar converter had been hidden, Catherine Pierce activated the device. Its target was not the sun. That would have killed humanity along with the invaders. Instead, it was aimed at something much farther away. The star Arcturus, 37 light-years from Earth, detonated. It happened in an instant. A peaceful orange giant transformed into a supernova. The light wouldn't reach Earth for decades, but the Conclave's sensors picked it up immediately. Every ship in the armada detected the signature of stellar annihilation. "This is what we can do," Grant announced. "Any star, any time. We don't want to use this weapon. We never wanted any of this. All we wanted was to explore, to grow, to take our place among the stars. You denied us that. You caged us. You called us dangerous and primitive and violent. Well, you were right. We are all of those things. And now you know what we're capable of when you push us." The conclave armada hung motionless in space. On the arbiter, Elder Zephyrus felt something he had not experienced in millions of years: doubt. "This is a bluff," Elder Murithex insisted through their quantum link. "They destroyed one star to intimidate us. They cannot possibly—" "Cannot," Vothnal interrupted. "This species split the atom and nearly destroyed themselves. They created weapons that could have ended all life on their world and then built enough of them to do it 1,000 times over. They did not do this out of necessity. They did it because they were afraid of each other. Imagine what they will do when they are afraid of us." Grant continued his broadcast. "We're prepared to negotiate. Real negotiations, not edicts from on high, not orders from beings who think they know what's best for everyone. We want a seat at the table. We want the right to explore, to trade, to exist as equals. Give us that and we'll dismantle the stellar converter. We'll share its secrets with you so that no one can ever build another. Refuse, and we start targeting stars with populated systems. Your move." The silence stretched for hours. On Earth, humanity waited. In the Arbiter, the elders debated furiously. For the first time in 12,000 years, they faced a choice that was not theirs alone to make. Finally, Zephyrus spoke. "We accept your terms. Negotiations will begin immediately." The galaxy changed that day. The conclave, which had ruled unchallenged for millennia, was forced to adapt. The blockade was lifted. Human ships spread across the stars, not as conquerors but as explorers. As traders, as equals. The process was not easy. Many civilizations resented humanity's forceful entry onto the galactic stage. There were conflicts, misunderstandings, and moments when war seemed inevitable. But again and again, humanity proved itself. Not through force, though that remained an option, but through something else. Something the elders had failed to see in their ancient wisdom. Humanity's greatest strength was not violence, it was adaptability. Where the Cathari Empire struggled to communicate with silicon-based life forms, human linguists cracked their chemical language in months. Where the Luminaries' light-based technology failed in the dark reaches of space, human engineers developed hybrid systems that worked everywhere. Where the Vex Collective's hive mind couldn't comprehend individual creativity, human artists produced works that bridged the gap between species. Within a century, humans were everywhere. They served as diplomats between feuding civilizations. They worked as traders in markets that spanned 1,000 worlds. They explored regions of space that older species had declared impassable, and always they pushed further, faster, higher. Admiral Grant, now old and gray, watched from his retirement home on Mars as the first human ship crossed into the Andromeda Galaxy. 2 million light-years from Earth, farther than any species had ever traveled. "We did it," he whispered. "Actually did it." Catherine Pierce, her mind now uploaded to a quantum substrate that would let her live for millennia, responded through the room's communication system. "We're just getting started, Sam. There are billions of galaxies out there, and we're going to visit every single one." In the conclave chamber, Elder Vothnal observed the human expansion with something approaching admiration. He had lived for 3 million years. He had seen empires rise and fall, species evolve and go extinct. But he had never seen anything like humanity. "We warned them," he mused. "We warned the entire galaxy, and none of them listened." "Perhaps that was our mistake," Zephyrus replied. The ancient elder had changed in the years since the confrontation. Humbled, some said, enlightened, others argued. "We tried to contain them, to limit them. We should have known better. You cannot cage a fire, you can only hope to guide it." And now we watch, we learn. Perhaps these humans, for all their chaos and violence, have something to teach us. Perhaps we have grown too comfortable in our wisdom, too certain of our superiority. Vothnal considered this. "You think they will become the next elders?" Zephyrus's form flickered with what might have been amusement. "No, I think they will become something entirely new, something the universe has never seen, and I find myself eager to witness it." On Earth, in the city that had once been called New York, a young girl named Sophia Martin looked up at the night sky. She was 7 years old, and she had just learned about the elders in school, about how they had tried to keep humanity trapped in their solar system, about how her great-great-grandparents' generation had refused to accept that fate. "Mom," she asked, "why didn't they want us to explore?" Her mother, a terraforming engineer who had spent 15 years turning the moons of Jupiter into gardens, knelt beside her. "They were afraid, sweetheart, afraid of what we might become." Were they right to be afraid? The mother was quiet for a moment, watching the stars that her species now called home. "Maybe. We've done terrible things in our history. We've hurt each other. We've destroyed things we should have protected. But we've also done beautiful things. We've created art and music and stories. We've healed the sick and fed the hungry. We've loved each other even when it was hard." "So which are we?" Sophia asked. "Good or bad?" "Both," her mother said. "We're both, and that's what makes us human. We can be monsters, yes, but we can also be heroes." The elders looked at us and saw only the monsters. They didn't understand that the same passion that drives us to war can also drive us to explore. The same stubbornness that makes us fight can also make us never give up. The same fire that can burn can also give warmth. Sophia nodded slowly, processing this. "So they were wrong." "Not wrong exactly, just incomplete. They saw part of us and thought they understood the whole, but nobody can do that, not even beings who have lived for millions of years. We're too complicated, too contradictory, too human." The girl smiled, and in that smile was the future of a species that had refused to be contained. A species that had looked at the infinite darkness of space and seen not a limit but an invitation. A species that had been warned and had not listened and had become unstoppable. "I'm going to be an explorer," Sophia announced. "I'm going to go farther than anyone has ever gone." "I know you will," her mother said. "I know you will." Above them, the stars burned on. Humanity's stars now, though once they had been forbidden. In the great dark between galaxies, human ships pushed ever onward, carrying their cargo of dreams and determination. And in the conclave chamber, the elders watched, no longer as judges but as witnesses to something unprecedented. The warnings had been given. The warnings had been ignored. And now the galaxy would never be the same. This was humanity's story, a story of stubborn hope and reckless courage. A story of a species that had crawled out of the mud, looked up at the stars, and decided that they belonged there. Not because anyone gave them permission, not because they had earned the right, but simply because they wanted it badly enough to fight for it. The elders had been wise enough to fear them, but they had not been wise enough to understand them. Because understanding humanity meant accepting a fundamental truth, that the universe was not a closed system, governed by ancient laws and elder wisdom. It was an open frontier, waiting to be explored by anyone brave enough to try. And humans were nothing if not brave. Generations passed. Humanity spread across not just the Milky Way but dozens of neighboring galaxies. They encountered species the elders had never discovered, civilizations that had evolved in isolation for billions of years. Some were hostile, some were friendly. All of them eventually had to come to terms with a simple fact: the humans were here to stay. The stellar converter was never used again after Arcturus. It remained humanity's darkest secret and their greatest deterrent, a reminder of what they were capable of when pushed to the edge. But it also served another purpose. It reminded them of the responsibility that came with power. "We could destroy stars," Captain Maria Santos told her crew as they prepared to enter yet another uncharted region of space. "We chose to discover new ones instead." Her ship, the New Dawn, was the farthest human vessel from Earth, so far that the light from home wouldn't reach them for millions of years. Yet here they were, 60 crew members representing a species that had once been confined to a single pale blue dot. "Captain," her science officer reported, "we're detecting unusual readings from the system ahead, artificial structures orbiting every planet, and there's something else." "What is it?" "A beacon, broadcasting in a language we've never encountered." "But there's something else, Captain, something beneath the surface code, a message." "Can you translate it?" The science officer worked his console, frowning in concentration. When he looked up, his expression was one of wonder. It says, we have been waiting. Welcome, younger species. You have passed the test. Santos felt a chill run down her spine. What test? The beacon's message continued as if in answer. The test of fire, the test of will, the test of wisdom through foolishness and peace through war. You had the power to destroy everything. You chose not to. You had the ability to conquer all who opposed you. You chose to befriend them instead. You were warned that you were too dangerous to join the galaxy. You proved the warning right, and then you proved it wrong. We have been watching. We have been waiting. And now, at last, you are ready to learn the true history of the universe. Santos looked at her crew. She saw fear in some faces, excitement in others. In all of them, she saw that same spark that had driven humanity to the stars in the first place, curiosity. Well, she said, I guess we'd better say hello. The new dawn moved forward toward whatever lay ahead. Behind them, across millions of light years, humanity continued its endless expansion, building, exploring, fighting and loving and creating, being human. The elders had warned the galaxy about them. None had listened. And humanity had become something no one had predicted, not conquerors, not destroyers, but something far more dangerous to the old order of things. They had become hope. Hope for the oppressed species under the Conclave's rule. Hope for the isolated civilizations waiting in the dark for someone to find them. Hope for the universe itself, which had grown stagnant under the weight of ancient wisdom and eternal caution. Humanity brought chaos, yes. They brought war and conflict and disruption. But they also brought energy, creativity, change. They were a flame in the darkness, and like all flames, they could burn or illuminate depending on how they were used. They had chosen to illuminate, not always, not perfectly, not without cost, but in the end that was the most human thing of all, the ability to choose, to look at their worst instincts and their best aspirations and decide moment by moment which ones to follow. The elders had not understood this. They had seen human history as a series of inevitable patterns leading to inevitable destruction. They had not grasped that humans were always choosing, always deciding, always becoming. And what they were becoming out there among the stars was something magnificent, something unstoppable, something beautifully, terrifyingly, wonderfully human. The end.